Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to never miss a video from us.
Hello and welcome to the Vskills Expert Interview Series. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Mr. Saleem Ahmed, a seasoned business development and marketing professional with an impressive track record in the government sales and key account management. With over 2 decades of experience in cross-country and cross-cultural environments, Mr. Ahmed has a significant contributions to various organizations and sectors. Currently serving as a Senior Vice President at the Electronics Sector Skill Council of India, Mr. Ahmed is at the forefront of efforts to develop strategic alliances between industry, academia, and government skills for the effective implementation of skill development mechanisms, aligned with the National Skill Qualification Framework for the electronics sector. In his role, Mr. Ahmed has a pivotal part in shaping the Make in India initiative of Government of India. Today, we will explore his career journey, his insights into government sales, and his strategies for building and nurturing key client relationships. Welcome, sir. I hope our viewers get to learn from your experiences.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you so much. Actually, when you speak about government sales, I would just like to highlight in the beginning that in any country or anywhere in the world, government is always the biggest spender because the government has a huge budget. It has a certain part of the GDP which the country is generating, and the government has a huge commitment, to build up social infrastructure and to ensure, the country has good education, good health, the defense, apart from the other, managing the municipalities and the complete infrastructure. So first, we should get in mind that government is the biggest spender. So obviously, it becomes the biggest customer more than any other corporate. So what actually inspires from the government is once you're working with the government, it requires a lot of commitment and a very consistent line of thought, and it's also very, very procedural because government sales or selling products or services to the government agencies, it can be rewarding for many, many reasons. Number one, that the government revenue is always very stable and reliable because every year the budgets keep on increasing, and a certain amount of spend which the government would be doing through the annual budgets, and whatever sector you are addressing, you are able to actually comprehend the quantum of the market in front of you and accordingly strategize and plan. So number one is a very stable revenue. Secondly, it's a very large customer base. Government agencies at a federal, state, and local level, they offer a huge segment, where the person can address the market segment, and practically every product services which are acquired by the government, and you could choose your line of product and then accordingly position and pitch for those products in the government. Secondly, government business is a long time. It's a long-term business because it's a consistent they procure every year. So if you are, for example, selling in the railways, there will be consistent businesses coming every year. And whether it could be like services like catering or maybe laundering, when you travel by the air-conditioned coaches, but the business is recurring long term. There's also a certain prestige and credibility of associating with the government business because once you sell to a government, there are certain parameters which you need to qualify, and those parameters, give you an ability to bid for a higher bid in the government in the higher businesses every consecutive year. So there could be a consistent growth in the businesses. There's also a very competitive advantage because successfully navigating the government sales process and securing contracts can give you a business competitive advantage because you compete against not only for the price, you compete in the product technicalities, and now government is also making a matrix of quality of the product. So you have to be Q1, you have to be technically one, and you have to be L1, lowest in the prices. So you have to develop the delivery mechanism, which is globally recognized, very competitive, and it offers a huge opportunity for you. Second is diversification. The government sales can be, it's a way to diversify your customer base because there are huge opportunities at the federal, the state, and at the local level, and the opportunities keep coming, and especially if you are an Indian manufacturer or an Indian company. So now the government is also considering giving, a preference. So there is a PMA, preferred market access, to the Indian companies in the government contracts, and so there's opportunity for innovation. Apart from that, it's very methodical, very procedural. when talking about government sales, it cannot be haphazard. It's a very consistent, because they have to compare all the vendors who are selling, and so I think I've given you enough reasons that why government sales is very important, and being the largest market and the biggest opportunity it's given. To work in a cross-cultural and a cross-country environment, as you know, that across the globe, who would understand this better than people who are living in India, where after every 40, 50 kilometers, the whole culture gets transformed. And we are living in such a diversified country, such a lovely country with people, the pluralism being the basic, defining the basic character of our country. So I think we Indians, it comes very naturally to us, because if you go to the Western world, they're quite standardized. India, we are very diverse in our language, in our clothing, in our food habits, in our lifestyle. So I think this sensitivity towards a different culture comes automatically to an Indian. So that's the advantage we have. But definitely working in a professional environment, and especially working in a cross-country, cross-culture environment, there are various ways to navigate, because there could be certain cultures which are pretty complex. For example, if you see the Japanese, they're extremely formal, or if you go to some like Americans, they're a little informal as compared to the Japanese. And so every country has their own specific attributes, and which have to be respected, because once you're having a professional relationship, the personal attributes have to also be respected. Then only you can navigate the professional ones. So very important that you have to make an effort to learn about the cultural diversity and the cultural aspects of any country, or any community you're dealing with. So we have to develop an understanding of the culture, and the way of life. It will help us in understanding, and also to build trust. Second is very effective communication. Communication is a key in any cross-cultural environment. So you have to be a very good listener and try to understand basically what the person of the other culture is trying to comprehend from you and expecting from you. And we have to respect their expectations, and we have to avoid any, like, especially in communication, we have to be very formal. We have to avoid any jargons and idioms, and also specifically make an effort to learn, because there could be certain words which mean different in different cultures. Certain words which could be very commonly used in our culture may be very offensive to the other culture. So there has to be a very conscious cultural sensitivity, I would say. If you can learn the language, very good. But I know you can't learn the language of all the cultures. But definitely some words, for example, if you are French, or if you are in, for example, Japanese or Korean, so certain words like thank you and stories. So if you know and if you speak, I think that gives you a more connect to this culture. So that will help you in building relationship. Because working in a cultural cross-cultural environment, you have to basically develop a relation. That trust, that mutual confidence has to be built, and it takes time, to know your colleagues and the clients personally. So building a relationship is indispensable for navigating the landscape for any cross-culture and cross-country. Now we have to respect differences. A lot of people would not be like the way we have. You go to the Arab world, they would be dressed up in the typical Arab robe and the Arab headgear. If you go to the Western world, of course, they dress up differently. If you go to the Far East in Malaysia, they have their own costume. So we have to respect the way they dress, and we have to respect the differences. We have to understand that it is a very diverse environment out there, and every diversity has to be respected, and it has to be you know complemented with your own mannerisms. Adaptability is also very important, because adaptability, you have to adapt to a person's different language, different lifestyle, different way of behavior. So we should be prepared to adapt to the working style to accommodate cultural differences. It would include adjusting the communication style, work hours, or even problem solving approach. Because every culture will have a different approach, how they go around solving problems. Now, global etiquette has to be adhered to. So while each country has their own mannerisms, but there are global etiquettes. For example, if you go to the Western world, there, being touchy may be a little no, but in the Arab world, people, they would hug you like in India. So we have to actually adopt and familiarize ourselves with global etiquette and protocol, understand how meetings, negotiations, other business interactions are typically conducted. in the countries you are working with. Each country, people have the different style of conducting business and conducting. Then another thing very important, especially in cross country, is the time difference because we're all working in different time zones. So 8 p.m. In India would be a very good time to talk to call. But then if you call somebody in Singapore 5 hours ahead, 4 hours ahead, then to midnight. So we have to be very sensitive to the fact what time are we calling or what time are we keeping the calls to accommodate the time zones of people living in different countries. So I would say to navigate very important cultural sensitivity and being empathetic is essential, to very successfully navigate the cross cultural and cross country environments. So, as you know, the key account manager is a person because I would say the government sales is one thing. Key account is different because each account in the government it's a key account. I would talk about myself. I have been a key account manager for BSNL, which is a huge procuring conglomerate. And at a time, they had bid for a project which was worth about 50,000 crores. So we have to bid for that. And so the basic quality is the how do you manage the account? How do you, and we have to speak to people, we have to meet up people who are from the procurement side, from the financial side, from the strategic side, senior management. So number one is your behavior because government is a very formal institution. So we have to maintain a formal relationship. And then there is ever changing. You may be dealing with one gentleman today and he will be transferred and there will be a next person. So it has to be a very consistent approach and effort and a commitment, towards good behavior. So because selling to a government agency is a very complex process and requires a unique set of skills and knowledge. Some of the skills I could point out here are very essential is understanding the government procurement process because the government has a very established process which is pretty complex but very methodical and very systematic. So you have to have knowledge of how government procurement works, including the regulations, bidding processes, compliance requirements, and also includes familiarity with the federal, state, and local procurement laws and regulations because each state would be having a different way of procuring. Ultimately, it may come down to the being the lowest in price, the negotiation, but the process has to be very important. Second is market research. We should be able to research and understand the specific needs, priorities, and budgets, as I told you, of each activity is important. And this involves staying informed about government initiatives, projects, because ultimately the government will procure through an expression of interest, expression or RFP through tenders. So we have to be very conscious, to be look out when are the tenders coming, how are we bidding, especially for our line of business. Relationship building is also very essential. Key account management is all about relationship building. So you have to maintain not only a hardcore professional, but also a personal relationship. And networking within the government sector can open doors and provide valuable insights, to other activities also. Second is next is the product knowledge. Now it's a basic thing that you should know thy product. Whoever is the account manager, the most essential thing is that he should know what he's talking about. And product today is not a very simple product. It is not like that I'm having a pack of biscuit and I'm offering it's a biscuit. No. There could be very complex solutions. There could be they're requiring interventions from multiple teams within an organization and try to position. Just for example, like if Infosys is trying to build up a taxation system for income tax, it requires a very comprehensive understanding of the process procedures. So product knowledge is very important. Second is compliance and regulations. Government works on compliance and regulations. So we have to adhere to the legal and regulatory requirements of the government uh, conducts and includes security clearances, trade agreements. There could be certain products in defense which are banned from certain countries. So we have to be aware of that. There could be certain products or certain specifications which are not required by the government and in fact which could be contrary to the legal laws of the country. So we have to be very particular about that and ensure that you only supply to the government what it is permitted and it's on the right side of the legal side. Then I would say, of course, the bid and proposal management, very essential because when you're bidding in the government, It requires a typical 1+2 system where you have one technical bid, one financial bid put in as one big envelope. So, but that requires a lot of training, and you have to be very diligent when you're bidding because one little mistake can disqualify you from the tender. Then the negotiation skills. You have to be very skillful. You can't come hard on the government, and you have to also make your profits. You can't agree to everything they say. So the negotiation has to be very delicate and very, very balanced. So negotiating terms and contracts with the government agencies, it can be very intricate process of a very fine art. So having strong negotiation skills is crucial to secure favorable deals. Then project management is very important. Once you get the project, it has to manage, the reporting to the government has to be periodical, and it involves efficient delivery is very, very important. Because compliance and adherence, to what has been promised is essential. Otherwise, the payments may get stuck. Then the adaptability, because government can change. So if you are adaptable to one style of working, state governments keep changing, central governments keep changing. So the priorities can change with political shifts or budget adjustment. So we have to be adaptable, and because being adaptable and adapting to changes in the government is very essential part of the success in the government business. Second is ethical behavior. Because when you are dealing with government, there are bureaucracy, there are officials. So as an organization, to safeguard your own interest, to safeguard your own reputation and credibility, yeah, one has to be very ethical in their behavior, and you have to maintain a very high ethical standards in dealing with the government agencies. Any hint of impropriety can be in serious consequences. Now, especially in all government tenders, they're signatory to a document by Transparency International, where you have to ensure and comply to the international laws that no, everything has been very transparent and nothing is secretive about the project. Then I would say in the government there's technical proficiency. Depending on the nature of your products, you have to have technical knowledge. Complete data has to be with you. The legal knowledge, as I told. So all these things I think are very elaborate for a successful key account management in government, and also to successfully contribute high numbers and high revenue in the government business. Well, government sales, they refer to purchase by the government entities, including federal and state, local governments, as I told you. So, number one is when the whole world is changing, so the government would also change. So earlier, the procurement involves a lot of paperwork. Every document had to be photocopied, had to be stamped, it had to be signed, countersigned by the authorized signatory. The power of attorney has to be furnished. But now, with the world of complete digital transformation, so governments now are increasingly embracing digital technologies to streamline operations, to enhance the citizen services, and improve efficiency. So this trend includes, investment in the cloud computing, data analytics, cybersecurity, emerging technologies. So one has to, also be aligned to all the technologies which the government now is adopting for a smooth procurement process as well as for a execution process. So very, very important. Other thing now are emerging with the government trends are government is now more conscious about sustainability and environment. So many, all the governments across the world, they are now a signatory to the Montreal Protocol on climate change, where they have to ensure that only those materials which are ozone friendly and any materials which are contrary to the environment have to be phased out. So sustainability and green initiatives form a very, very important change in the current government trend of procurement. And it is now leading to the increased focus on green procurement, including purchase of energy efficient product, renewable energy sources, and electrical vehicles. You see all over now. Government now is procuring all those the electrical vehicles, to reduce the carbon print. So these are the very visible changes. Apart from that, then there's a lot of shift in the government, of procuring, especially post-COVID. Government has now increased its spending on healthcare, medical supplies, and technology, for especially for the rural areas. The response to the pandemic has highlighted the importance of resilient supply chains, because in COVID, The medicines fell in short supply, the oxygen also there was the issue. So now the government now is spending big way to stand a guarantee in times of any of these medical emergencies. Then the government now is shifting focus also for that we have to the trend is because most of the procurements are being done through the digital platforms, through online bids. So cyber security is very essential because the rise in cyber threat and government systems. There is a growing emphasis on investing in cyber security of the products. Another trend which we have observed in recent time, government now spending big time on infrastructure because that is the backbone of development of the country. So government is building highways, the new train systems are coming. Government has now privatized Air India, so Tata are taking over. There used to be it's expected a huge increase in capacity. So a lot of trends, because government getting out of certain sectors like tourism sector, they have really been out now. Just a regulator, even airlines now they have come. So a lot of business is shifting towards building infrastructure, and government now is doing what the government must do and not get into any business because running a business is not actually a government job. Government job is essentially, to monitor, to ensure compliances and make a regulatory trend. So that is also a great trend. And a lot of changes in government regulations and policies can be significant and impact government. So now trade policies, the global trade policies are also defined, and the internal process of government also has to be changed. And a lot of things now, government trend is also through PPP, that is public-private partnerships. You see all the airports, all the ports now, which require high investment. So the private capital is being drawn there, and now government is building and managing this on a PPP model. Also, a lot of highways, which is government doing. So diversity and inclusion is another thing. Government also wants to ensure access, to all the social classes, and improve broadband connectivity. And 5G is very, very essential uh, in the government. So I think the trend in the government business is changing for the better and towards the thing which I have. Well, as I told you, the mutual trust and the bond which has to be built. Long-term client relationship is crucial, for success and sustainability of any business. To achieve this, basically, number one is the trust and credibility. So establishing a trust is the foundation of long-term client relationship. So you have to be honest. We have to deliver on promises. We have to maintain transparency in interactions. If you go and commit something and which you're not walking the talk, then the trust factor will. So you cannot allow that to happen because in the government it is your personal credibility, your trust, which is indispensable for maintaining a very good relationship. You can't be perceived, to be uh, promising something and not being able to deliver. Second is effective communication. So you have to maintain open lines of communication, with the government businesses, listen to the needs, and timely response to the queries and feedback which is being sought from you. So that will also enhance your credibility. Then understanding the client needs, what are the goals, what are the challenges, and the preferences which the client wants. That is very essential in maintaining a long-term relationship. And to personalize certain interactions and offerings that also concretize the relations because we are into a professional relationship. They are your customers, you are the providers, but then the personal relationship, maybe attending to some of the personal functions, inviting them to your personal programs. So it basically, ultimately, we are dealing with humans, and a good bond and relationship with a human is all about strengthening the relationship, and so we should consciously strive for that. We should also strive for continuous improvement in any of the feedback which is given. So all these things is complete transparent, complete keeping to your commitment, promise, delivering what you promise are very essential for building, maintaining, and having a very good relationship. Well, these paraprofessionals, I would say, as number one, as I told, because every professional is striving to go into this kind of field. So, with my opening statement, as I told, government business is the biggest business in any country in the world. Any country you take, because government is the biggest spender always. Even the large corporate in the country, they may only spend certain fraction of what the government budgets have. So number one, you have the big market. Number two, you should be very cautious and build up a certain, a certain personality which is geared, towards addressing the challenges and the requirements of government business. As I told, number one is, you know, you should be very transparent. You should be completely committed. You should adhere to timelines because these are essential part of government. If you miss the tender time and date by 1 minute, you're gone. I mean, the government will not accept. So adherence to the time, your commitment towards the cause. Of course, there is no substitute for hard work and focus. I would not say be very serious, but definitely sincerity is required. So I would advise the young professionals, to look it as a very big opportunity, which has immense potential, of growth, both in terms of your personal growth, also of your professional growth, and also your financial growth. So I would always say that to keep focus, consciously build up the capabilities required, and then practice, the aspects and the requirements what the government business requires. There are many inspirational meanings and quotations, to live by in life, and the right one maybe depend on your personal values and goals. But a very famous quote, what our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi said, he said, "Be the change that you wish to see in the world." I think change starts by self. So I like this quote a lot because if you really complain about things need to change, but then the change has to start within. So I would just again quote that be the change that you wish to see in the world. It encourages individuals to take responsibility for making positive changes in their own lives and the world around them. It also emphasizes the power of personal actions and potential for positive impact. So I do like to follow this principle in my life.
Indeed, it's really a great quote by the father of nation. So that is it for the interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I hope I have done justice, to your
Yes, sure.
questions and any other future requirements you have or the support you require. I will be very happy to support you.
Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to never miss a video from us.